Hey, Sparty Al here. I want to show you the repurposed slash recycled emergency kit. I've been working on this for a couple years, trying different configurations. I'm dedicating this to my brother Craig, who endured Hurricane Sandy. For about 5 days, he lived on Halloween candy and water, but a lot of the neighbors had big fancy generators. However, there was no gas to run them. So I think everybody should have a strategy in place for being able to heat things, whether it be water or food, soups, without electricity, at least a couple days. So I've gone about it in two separate ways. One's mostly recycled, the other is repurposed. So let's first talk about the difference there. My first cooker here is based on a recycled coffee can. I go through a lot of these. A lot of times I just throw them away or recycle them. I'm now using them as the core to a recycled cooker. The way this works is you need to open the lid. There's usually a little rim there. You open that up, and that allows space to put in, which is a repurposed item, which is a metal paper clip holder. And this paper clip holder has a little paint on it, so you do have to burn it off. But I have a couple I've used many times, and they hold up because the sources I use for heat are alcohol, and they burn very pure. But all you need to do is put a hole. This is one I have yet to manufacture. You put a hole in it, and then you use a fuel source. This has a hand sanitizer in it, and all you would do is light the hand sanitizer, put this over it, put this on top, and in about 10 to 15 minutes it's going to cook to about 250 degrees in 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how well it stays lit. The other, so that's recycled. The other is probably the best cooker per se, but it comes a little bit more expensive, and it's more repurposed than recycled. Same screen that needs to be used, but the can outside of this is a paint, just a standard 1 quart paint can. These can run about $3 to $4 depending on where you get them. Since it's brand new, and I wouldn't recommend you recycle something like this, it's going to cost $4, and you need to take the bottom off, and then from there it works as a tight unit with best way to describe it is certain size cans, and that's the hard part. The bottom part to Chinese food cans, yams we get down here in Texas, those cans fit right into it, which means it's condensed to a very small size. So you need to find one of these, recycle this, repurpose this. When you put it together, this is how it looks. The fuel source I recommend for this cooker is we have these Sterno outdoor cookers. Now Sterno sells a lot of gel cookers, but some don't meet the needs just the right way. These outdoor cookers cook at a hot temperature, which is what you want. The one drawback is it really has a strong odor to it, an eye irritant. And they say on the container, use in a well-ventilated area, and I recommend you do that. But in an emergency situation, you're going to put up with a little eye irritation to get a warm meal in you. But they cook for about 2¼ hours. What you would do in this scenario is a little different than the other cooker, is you would set this down, you would light it, put this can over it, invert the metal container, which again will have a hole in it, and you put that in there. Now the holes that you put in the bottom of this can let air in. The distance between this and a can that fits inside stays lit, warms up. It's an efficient use of the heat too. It again will, in about 10 to 15 minutes, it'll get to 250 degrees. Also, 2 cups will easily fit in there, as well as a package of ramen noodles crushed up in there. So you've got a pretty effective meal in an emergency situation. So that's the repurposed can. And again, I don't make a lot of them because they're kind of expensive. I've gone to more of these cans, and actually what I've evolved into is what I'm going to show you here at the end. This container has 3 different cookers that fit inside here, as well as a lot of other stuff, and I'll try to go through it pretty quickly. But let me clean up here and talk about fuel sources. Once again, Sterno makes a lot of different products. They do make something for a chafing dish for heating up food at a buffet, and it's designed to burn at a low temperature. I wouldn't recommend that. You want to get your stuff as hot as you can. So buy the outdoor cooker if you're going to go the Sterno route. They have these at a dollar store. These are meant for chafing dish, and these are alcohol on the inside, but a wick here. And they don't burn for 2¼ hours, but they do burn for a while. And they are actually a good source of heat, about 1/3 of the cost of the Sterno cans, so I get them about $1 at a clearance store. But what I've gone to is these basically hand sanitizer. Now I use the big container to experiment with, but little tiny travel size containers can be put inside the containers and then put into the dish. This dish here, or this container if you will, is a small cat food / dog food container, potted meat containers. I've even used metal lids, and they work real well because you don't need a whole lot of fuel. But let me light it and show you. They burn real well. Again, since it's a blue alcohol flame, it's I don't know if that is showing off. As you can see, the flame's coming up 2-3 inches. It gets warm, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't get super hot. I would recommend, though, you place it on a non-burnable surface. I have a little ceramic tile here that I put things on. Again, this will burn for about, depending on how much you put in there, but usually around 15-20 minutes, you know, a couple ounces of the hand sanitizer. And in an indoor condition, it stays lit. Now, there are some problems outdoor, but I'll talk about that later. But again, that is the fuel source for this and for several of these containers. But let me put out this flame. Okay. That ought to be out. Okay. So this is the recycle, repurposed, and then I kept trying to come up with a way of incorporating the most amount into the smallest amount of area. And this is what I call my Be Ready Kit Beehive. And the reason being is there's not only 3 cookers in here, which I'll show you, there's also many other items that I would recommend you put into your kit. Let me show this to you. The first one is what I will call the smallest container. It's only a 1-cup cooker. You use a smaller can. Now this is actually the top part to these Chinese food cans, and also I think if you buy chicken products, they make a can similar, but I'd say about 3 inches tall, holds well more than a cup. To get it compact so that it all fits like this, all right, you can just toss that in your car. and that's the reason I designed it so small. But to get it in there, I had to use, this is a recycled baby food container, and all I do is fill it up with hand sanitizer. It'll give you probably about 3 or 4 cookings in it. And then, because it has a metal lid, you can just put the sanitizer here into this metal lid. As you can see, I have used it a couple times. It works well. But again, all you need to do, this is one that I have modified. I don't know if the holes are shown there. But what you do is you put the sanitizer in a metal lid, put this over it, and you have a cooker. You light it, and 1 cup. That's all that fits, is 1 cup. A couple of the other things. So that's 1 cooker. I'm going to eventually show you 3 cookers that came out of this container. But a couple of the things that fit in here. Another hand sanitizer, which is more fuel. These are those forks and spoons. You know, they're really functional when it comes to eating, because you can take them apart and you can get into your food. You're going to want to have something. If not, put plastic silverware. Nothing's worse than having to suffer by using your hands in a situation like that. I throw into my container, because water is so important. These are those iodine tablets that then can take the iodine out of the water, but it will kill the water, allow you to have relatively safe drinking water. Compass, little thermometer gauge. You want to know where you're heading and how hot it is, because that might help you survive. A source of light, just easy, small. They don't take a lot of energy. They last for a long time. A first aid kit. Now you want to keep these up to date. I had to throw a few things out, and I noticed that I didn't have any Imodium AD in there. You want something like that, because you can't lose fluids, both you know, uncontrollable diarrhea. When you have something like that, survival's tough, because you're so irritated and so miserable, you will probably make a bad decision. So my recommendation to you is always check your first aid kit, Band-Aids. I even put a sewing kit inside here. Just, you never know what you're going to need to sew, whether it's your skin or possibly garments that help keep you warm. But first aid kit, probably a crucial one to keep in there is one of these multi-tools. And these are real nice because, again, the container is going to get warm. You want to be able to take it off without having to touch it. And plus it has a bottle opener, can opener, and these are really critical. Plus it has a little saw that saws small branches, and you might need that for making a fire. All right, inside here to help condense, these are the metal lids I use to put the fuel. Just put it in there, and you don't need a whole lot. Another container of sanitizer, which is more fuel, all that fit within the container. These are important. Strike stick. You need to have multiple ways of starting a fire. Never rely on just one way of starting a fire. So here's the container. Again, another one of those burnable containers. And what I recommend you do is use the lid on this one. This is another one of those shields. Again, it's a paper clip holder, and I've used this one, I don't know if you can see, I've used this one about a dozen times, and it's still holding up strong. So you put the sanitizer, light it, put this down, and then you put a 2-cup holder. So now what you have is you have 1 cup here, 2 cup, and then for the third one, take the burnable container, fill that as sanitizer, invert this, Actually, on this one, the best configuration is don't invert it. Put this in here, light it, and then put this in here. So you got 3 different cookers. You got 1 cup, 2 cups. I've done up to 8 cups of water. It can hold a lot more than that, but it takes a lot of energy to heat up that many cups of water. So I'd say 6 cups is about the right size. So 1, 2, and 6. I also have come up with, when you have this open screen setup, it does lend itself well to blowing out in a windy condition. I had a windy day, and it was about 10 miles consistent, 10 miles per hour consistent with 15-mile-an-hour gusts, and it was blowing out my flame. So what I've done is I've come up with a way. Now this is just a tuna container with holes drilled in it. And what I do is I invert it this time, put the sanitizer in there, light it, and then put it inside this tuna container. That keeps the flame from getting direct wind, and it stays lit. You put the can on there, and I was able to keep it lit with 15-mile-an-hour gust, and so it was very successful. So again, whether you go recyclable, repurposed, come up with something that you have that you know know how to use in an emergency situation, meaning try it out a couple times, and that you can grab and go, because you're not always going to have electricity come out of the wall. So have a plan, a strategy, and hopefully you won't ever be caught in a situation like my brother was, where he had to rely on other people to provide aid, and he wasn't self-sufficient. You need to be at least self-sufficient for a couple days. So then things will start settling out. You won't have to make bad decisions because you're hungry and cold. So consider one of this setup. This is the prototype. I'm going to keep improving it. A lot of the improvements I've made were because of suggestions made by YouTube viewers. Please continue to make those suggestions. I appreciate any input. So this is the Be Ready kit. It's a total of 3 cookers, all fit within 1 can, and it has a lot of other necessary elements. Thank you for your time.